Hi, Chris. It is great to
Hey,
see you again.
it's good to see you, Anthi.
So, Chris, you have been interviewing quite a few of our colleagues who made a move in their career with Randstad from different lines of businesses. And I want to say thank you for taking your time to share with us at Randstad North America from Canada to the US their stories. But I think we would be remiss if we did not take some time to talk about your career with Randstad. You have an incredible story to tell us. And I also want to say a big thank you to Melinda Randolph, who allowed me to do this interview. So thank you, Melinda, if you're watching. So, Chris, would you like to tell us about your journey with Randstad?
Yeah, and I'm flattered. Thank you for asking. I've been here 24 years. This month, actually, August of 2024 marks 24 years for me with the organization. And I started in our field operation, what we call a staffing manager role today. We called it something else back then. And then I grew in our field operation through a lot of different roles. I was a business development manager, a branch manager, a senior branch manager, district manager, an area vice president. In fact, at one point, Anthi, you and I were on the same VP team, and it was just a very exciting time in my career and in my growth. But at one point, my span had gotten so large, I was never at home anymore, and I had a toddler at home. And it was really hard not to be home to tuck her in at night. And so I went to my boss and said, I want to figure out how I can continue to contribute here. I love sales. I think I'm built for sales, but how can I do that and be home at night with my girl and my family? And we looked at a lot of different options. Ultimately, I ended up taking what at the time seemed like a step back in title. I earned less money, but we were starting something really exciting at RBE, and I took that role. And over the last 14 years have continued to grow it until it's gotten a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. And I'm just really grateful that it's the kind of place where you take good care of what you're responsible for, and it tends to grow. And we just have a lot of opportunities, a lot of exciting opportunities to use our talent here at Randstad.
That is great to hear, Chris. So you've been with the company for 24 years and you've moved 14 times in different departments, branches, districts, and regions. And I am so happy to hear you sharing the story of work-life balance. So I'm really, you and your manager at the time worked things out and you stayed with Randstad and you could spend also time with your baby. It's interesting. One question that I have that I wanted to ask you is if you have a good partner for talent story to share with us today.
Absolutely. I've had a couple over the last week. The first one came during the OTS town hall. We heard from Darren in Greensboro and Wallace in Eagles Landing. And these guys told everybody how they had created better experiences for talent using the app and for clients using the app. So Darren talked about like going real time with his client and showing her how her order was applied to, like right then while he was in her office. And then Wallace talked about a talent that got placed like immediately by downloading the app on his phone. And then the second one this week was with Pat Griffin from Torque. And he talked to me, and let me back up real quick, just in case you don't know. Torque was a recent acquisition by Randstad Digital. It's a two-sided talent marketplace. In my mind, it's very similar to the app that we're using in OTS. But the bottom line is it removes friction from the process of people getting to jobs and the jobs that need them getting to people. And I think it's really what being a partner for talent is all about. Like, how do we make those experiences better? How do we get talent to work faster? How do we make it easier for everybody to be able to use their talent and for companies to be able to access the talent that they need? And I think it's just another incredible part about being at Randstad is that, you know, we're investing in all of this transformation and change to make things better. So we don't get Kodak'd, right? So that nobody's ever ahead of us. We just keep leaning in on solutions to be the best partner for talent.
Chris, thank you for sharing both stories. My question for you is, why are you staying with Randstad? What makes you stay?
Oh, it's the meaningful work. Absolutely the meaningful work. When I was in the field operation, it was one view of how to connect people to jobs and companies to people. And then here today as an enablement function, getting to see people that were like I was, like connecting to those careers that change your life and your mind and your family, like change everything. And then two, Fritz had this idea that companies had a responsibility to be more than just good products and good profits. Like they had to make a difference in the world. And when you work at Randstad, you can have a lot of confidence that you do. Like those bikes over my shoulder are not just symbols that we all share of Fritz on his bike back in 1960. Like they are representations of real bikes that are out there in the world in communities in Africa where kids are getting to go to school instead of spending their days walking to get water for their families. We've got the Stad, which is a whole story unto itself about how we brought skills into a marketplace that weren't there as we built this beautiful ship. And it's just Randstad. Like Ellen on my team just got back from serving in Tanzania and creating good outcomes for people there because she works for Randstad. It's the meaningful work. And then you pair that with the people we get to do it with. And it's really hard to imagine spending your talent anywhere else.
That is so important. Lots of reasons for you, Chris, to stay within Randstad. So thank you. I appreciate that. The other question that I have is for you to share with us, what has been one or two, what is the best advice that you have ever received from your manager?
It's a piece of advice that I share with my team all the time. If you ask them, I've said it at least once already this week, and it's to focus on what you can control, because wherever you spend your attention, that thing will get bigger. And so if you spend your attention on the things that you can impact by doing good work, that circle will grow. If you spend your attention on things that you can't control, but frustrate you, that's different. So if you've got a problem, if something feels suboptimal, like think about the things you can control in that. I can vocalize my opinion. I can use the data. I can come up with better solutions. I can pitch those. But if not, like focus on those things that you really can control, and they get better and bigger. There's just a lot of waste when you spend your time and attention on things that you really can't influence.
Chris, I think this has been a great advice. And I agree with your manager who made that statement about focus on what you can control, because there's a lot of changes personally, professionally, but we all need to focus on what we can control. It's a practice that involves discipline, right? And a shift in mindset. It can help us create a sense of order and stability and may reduce anxiety symptoms. So when you focus on what you can control, Chris, exactly like you said, you may be able to approach challenges at work with a calmer and more collected demeanor. This is a wonderful advice from your manager. And with that being said, Chris, thank you so much. Thank you for interviewing and sharing the story with so many of our colleagues these last few months on the internal mobility side. And I also want to share with you that it's great working with you and your team. And thank you for helping us find all this great internal talent at Randstad. We have transferred to and from Randstad in-house services in my division quite a few of our internal talent at Randstad. And thank you also for helping us find new talent. Thanks for everything. And it was a pleasure seeing you today.
Anthi, thanks for the green shoots in RIS. We are all so excited about the success you're having, and I've got the best job in the world. It's a real treat to get to support you.
One of our 5 strategic pillars is the best team, and I really believe that we have the best team.
I do too.
Thank you for helping us with that, Chris.
It's a treat. Thanks, Anthi. Bye-bye.